Good evening. I'd like to take this evening talk before we enter the rigor of our sitting schedule to think about how we approach meditation or zazen. Now, and I want it to be rather informal, like just talking about it. It's like, what are you doing on the cushion? Now, some of you are very experienced meditators. You've been doing it for a long time, and you have found your own way of approaching it. So I don't really need to tell you what to do. And some of you are more or newer to the practice, and maybe I know that many people are wondering, am I doing it? Am I doing it right? You have noticed, I think, there's lots of quite different or slightly different approaches to meditation. Many traditions, and each tradition is taking their approach rather seriously. It's like, you've got to do it this way. But I think all these varieties of approaches have emerged because people are different, and people have different temperaments, and not everything works for everyone. So you have to keep that in mind. It's like the one person who is in charge of your meditation practice is you yourself. It's like, you just try something and see what it does, and adjust and refine your approach and so forth. And to have some input and a conversation about it is useful, but in the end it's like we all need to find our own way. Now, at the risk of oversimplifying, I would say that meditation approaches can be kind of grouped into two categories. There's the do nothing approach, and there's the do something approach. I gravitate toward the do nothing approach. That's what sort of works for me now. It's the result of a journey. So I certainly wasn't instructed in the beginning. I wasn't given the do nothing approach, really. I was giving a do something approach. I'll say a little bit more about that. But the do nothing approach is kind of like the main road in Soto Zen. It's called just sitting. It's like you take this posture. If you want to think about this posture in a very simplified way, you arrange your lower body in a way that allows you to sit with an upright spine. That's it. Stable base for inviting your spine into uprightness. And then you just sit, you do nothing. The way I try to say more about this approach is to say, allow your experience to be exactly what it is at this time. Now, your experience is always changing, so it's an experiencing. It's like there's change, impermanence. And moment by moment, you allow this changing experience to be exactly what it is. This is an approach of non-interference, of not manipulating your experience. There's nothing that needs to be fixed, and there's nothing that needs to be improved. There's nothing that you need to add to your experience, and there's nothing that you need to subtract from your experience. It just is the way it is. It's a kind of illusion anyway that you can add or subtract something. It's just what it is. So the prime example of this is the discomfort you can feel in sitting. Some people are lucky, don't feel much discomfort in sitting, although it's not so clear. Like, it might be actually helpful to feel some discomfort because it keeps you alert. Keeps you in touch with your experience. If you're pain-free, it's like, well, then you can just, I don't know, your mind is not tied to the here and now. Because if you got some discomfort, you just have to sort of deal with that. And you notice your reactivity, your resistance, your objection to the discomfort. So with pain, for most people, we have some ingrained habit of resisting our discomfort, and so most people try to do something about that and feel better. And the do-nothing approach is basically your intention is to do nothing about your experience as it shows up. But when you are noticing that you are trying to do something, so you wiggle and fidget and try to correct your posture so that you feel less pain, like let's say that's the example, then when you notice that you're doing that, you stop and let go of this impulse to do something about it. So then you will find yourself again wanting to do something, and when you notice it, you stop. The physical expression of that is stillness. You're just sitting still. And the mental expression of that is a clear, receptive awareness that is just allowing things to arise and allowing things to disappear. Now, when we say allow things to arise and then allow things to disappear, it's just like, yeah, that would be great, but some unwanted experiences stay. They stay around for longer than we want. And when they do that, that's a wonderful opportunity for your do-nothing approach, because when they stay around, you can find again and again your reactivity, your resistance arising, struggling against that unwanted phenomenon that for some reason stays and doesn't go away. So you feel that struggling energy present, and you stop. You release that and return to doing nothing about it. Another example is thought. We can have this idea that the goal of practice is to quiet down our thoughts. Do not try to stop your thoughts. With this do-nothing approach, is you making the mind wide. You allow thoughts to arise and you allow thoughts to disappear. Thoughts don't stay around for very long. And if you continue to practice non-interference, the experience is over time that there is less, that your thoughts become less frequent or less dense. There's gaps appear. As the Sukya Roshi, in our lineage instructed, don't invite your thoughts to tea. They come. You can't do anything about that. They come. But you don't give the thought any energy. You don't invite it to tea. And when you don't give it any energy, then it's gone immediately. It's like thoughts become repetitive when we give them energy. You need to find out what that means, to kind of hold on to a thought as important, or to resist a thought as not wanted or problematic, as like, I shouldn't have that thought. Good luck. What you resist persists. Like, if you have that kind of thought that you don't want, my prediction would be, it'll come back. It'll be there again. If you don't invite it to tea, it's like one way to think about this is like, let the thought come, deliver its message, and then it can go. However absurd the thought is. Inviting your thoughts to tea is to take them rather seriously. It's like, give them importance. Invite them to sit down on the couch and be important guests, but you can treat them just as like not so important. Uchiyama Roshi has a book that is named Opening the Hand of Thought, and I always like that phrase. It's like there's something profound in this gesture of opening the hand. It's like the hand clasped, or is a grasping hand, a hand that holds on. And then opening the hand of thought is to release whatever was grasped. And I say this quite often, but I think it's very important. It's like when people hear the phrase to let go, typically, or frequently, the understanding is to get rid of. Like, well, I need to let go of my anger, meaning like, I want to stop being angry, or I want to, get rid of this problem of being angry. Well, that's not what letting go is. Letting go is to not be identified with your anger, to not grasp it. It's like, so I always want to reframe letting go as letting it come. Letting go means to let it come. So when there's anger, you let it come. It's there. What are you going to do about it? It's already there. It's too late. So you let it come, but by not holding on to it, then you're allowing it to also go. So it's like, I've likened this to having something sitting on the palm of your hand. Is like, letting go means to not grasp it. That doesn't mean, like, when you let it go, when you ungrasp, it doesn't mean it's gonna be away right away. You're just not grasping it. So then a wind can come and take it away. But it's not in your control. It may come, it may go, or it may stay. You don't know how long it's going to stay. It's not a problem. You're just holding it in a non-grasping way with an open hand. Holding is the wrong word. Hosting it. So non-interference, non-manipulation, non-resistance. No objection to your experience as it is. This is the do-nothing approach. Now, the issue with it, I think, is that it has certain requirements. And I would say the requirements for this do-nothing approach is attentional stability, trust. Well, let's say, let me name 3 requirements. There might be more, but those are the ones that I find relevant right now. Attentional stability, trust, and openness. Attentional stability is it's a staying power. It's the power to stay with your experience. In the opening talk to the practice period, I spoke about being committed to here. And here stands for this experiential space that we're in always. We're always in an experiential space. And that experiential space is here, is what we can call here. And so to be committed to here, to this experiential space, whatever the content is the ultimate commitment you can make in your life. It's the truth of your experience. We have the tendency, I said in that talk, we have the tendency to try to escape it. And this willingness and then ability to not escape your experience as it is here and now is the ability to stay. And it's another way to say that is it's an attentional stability. Because the problem with this do-nothing approach is that it can be easily confused with a kind of laziness, like, I don't have to do anything, or there's nothing to do, so you can just let your mind, ramble on and so forth. It's actually true that your mind can ramble, but for this approach, it's kind of necessary to be present with that. To be present with the rambling. And not to be carried away by the rambling, which would be inviting your thoughts to tea. So it's a noticing of the rambling. It's like a noticing of what's going on with body sensations. It's a noticing, being present with what's going on sensorially. But, and I'll get to that from another angle later, is like, this attentional stability it's a wide attention. It's an attention that invites the totality of your experience. And in some ways, it's kind of an advanced practice. On the one hand, it's the most natural thing. It's already happening. On the other hand, in relationship to your tendency to want to escape that, it's pretty advanced to stay here with what is. So it may be necessary to develop attentional stability, and that would be the do something approach. The do something approach is there to develop attentional stability. But let's imagine we have that attentional stability already, sufficiently. Then what comes with it is a kind of trust in the process of life unfolding for you the way it does. It's like you're not wishing for your life to unfold any different from how it does, because it won't. It's like, you're not going to be somebody else. You're not going to switch out your past or, jump out of this body into a different body. It's just like a commitment to life unfolding this way, which is your way. And we can begin to trust that. A mentor of mine, at one point I was complaining about someone to him, and I said, I just can't trust this person anymore. This person doesn't have my best interests at heart. Can't trust him. And then my mentor said, oh yeah, you can trust him to be exactly the way he is. This totally flipped my brain. It's like, wow, this is true. See, my understanding of trust was to trust someone means that I can trust that things are going to go my way. But I think that's actually the usual understanding of I can trust this person. It's like they're going to do something that's good for me. They're going to act in a way that supports what I imagine my well-being is. To say, you can trust him to be exactly the way he is. You can trust, in other words, you can trust your own experience that this person doesn't care about your well-being. Listen to this carefully. Once you trust your experience that is the case, right? You trust your experience, you trust your own eyes, your own experience of what's happening, then you can act. You can say well, I'm going to change the way I'm relating to this person. This actually empowers you to find an appropriate response. If you're stuck in the complaint that life is not going the way you're imagining it should go, you're not finding an appropriate response. So attentional stability here also means is as you have the ability to face what is the case, you can trust your own experience, and this trust is the basis for, sound decision making. And then openness, I think, is a requirement, and many people confuse openness with a kind of lovey-doveyness of life. It's like, oh, I'm so open. Well, openness just means you are open to what is, which means it's like, could be good, could be bad. It's just, that's actually secondary. It's just what it is. And it's a really radical stance. So bring this in connection with do nothing. Do nothing about whatever is happening is openness. Like, I had a sort of like a bit of a scattered day today. It's like this, just like multiple conversations in completely different realms. Like, I'm dealing with an accounting problem, and I'm seeing students, and I'm preparing for, it's just like all this stuff at the same time. It's like, now you could start to complain about your day in this way. It's like, that's not what I wanted, Or you can, and then I thought I was quite well rested, but then a certain kind of tiredness came over me in the afternoon, and then, I'm aware that I need to give a talk, and then I could start to feel like, oh yeah, but I wish I was feeling more energetic, or I wish I didn't have to give the talk, or something like that. It's like, I'm just giving, I'm partly making this up. That was not my state of mind, but just using my own day of like, you have like 1,000 opportunities each day to complain about something. It's just amazing. There's no shortage of opportunity for that. Or you can just take it as it comes. It's like, well, then you feel a little tired, so what? Just, deal with that. Life is possible while you feel a little tired. The most compelling example for me is actually mind states that we tend to wish weren't there, like confusion or indecision or stuff like that. Where it's like everyone basically agrees that to be confused is a bad thing, or to be undecided is kind of like this state that you don't want to be stuck in indecision. Like you want to move forward with a decision or something. There would be like a general agreement. Everyone wants clarity instead of confusion. Everyone wants to act rather than be stuck. But do you see what that is? This is like you're refusing to be confused. Well, but if you're confused, then that's what you are. It's like, what are you going to do about that? If you're undecided, that's the state you're in. So the do-nothing approach would be to welcome your confusion, to recognize it for what it is. You could label it, but you don't have to. You can just, start to be more at ease with unwanted mind states and not desiring them to be different or just to resolve themselves. There's this, I think it's Sufi or just Arabic, I think it's a Sufi wisdom phrase, like, out of the bud of confusion rises the flower of amazement. It's like these things always exist together. Without confusion, you don't have insight. Or amazement of like, oh, that clarity arose out of this confusion. So if we're really willing to be confused, then we can study how the confusion starts to change, develop, and then disappear into and transform into sometimes clarity or amazement or insight. When you are in a mind state that has taken a hold of you for a longer period of time, like I have experienced, be depressed for multiple years or confused about something for a longer time, then you're more prone to wanting to give up and not commit to it. But some things just take a long time to develop into something that we would call a resolution of that state. And some things never resolve themselves. Sorry. My Qigong teacher tells me this, like he had this obscure Chinese teacher who barely spoke English. And my teacher, who was American, was born with what he calls a bad back. He had this unstable back, and he had problems with his back and pain even as a child. So he kind of complained to his teacher about it. It's like, I have this bad back, and then the teacher, this Chinese guy said, well, you've got to grow a new spine. When I study my Qigong teacher around his bad back issue, it's actually still a bad back, but I think he grew a new spine, actually. It's like he's got no problem with it. No problem. He's in his 80s, he's always in a good mood, full of chi, and he's got a bad back. It's amazing. What the frame of mind that you have around a basically unresolvable issue is sometimes the resolution. Okay, so there are these requirements in a way, and because there are these requirements, there is the do something approach. Now in Zen, commonly, you as a beginner, you'll be taught to count your breath. Counting the breath is doing something. Counting the breath is, as I talk about it, is using the naming function of the mind. In this case, you use numbers, you name the exhale 1 and then the next exhale 2. I prefer to count exhales because it's a more relaxed, the exhale allows you to go kind of deeper into relaxation. But if you are prone to falling asleep, you might want to count the inhales because it gives you kind of more energy. But you could, and this is suggested in certain sutras, you could name your breath in, out, or you can name it 1, 2, 3. But what we're doing is we're using the naming function of the mind to stabilize attention on a chosen target. In this case, it would be the sensations of breathing that you can feel are happening in your body. And this practice cultivates attentional stability. You can leave your attention somewhere where you're choosing to put it. And the training is when you notice that your attention is going elsewhere, that would be if you have a chosen target, and when you find your attention going somewhere else, people call that a distraction. and then you have to come back. Yeah, don't have to. That would be the practice. You can intend to come back, and then you try to stay, and then your attention goes away, and then you bring it back. And over time, the staying power of attention increases. Pretty tedious practice. But it's in the service of developing attentional stability. Now, we also usually get the instruction, like I certainly recommend it, is that you notice your breath in your hara. And the hara is this abdomen area. And specifically in Japanese word would be the tanden, or in Chinese it would be the dantin. Just below the navel and a little bit inward, there's a kind of, it feels to me like a cavity, sort of like, it's like something you can breathe into. And somewhere you can rest your attention in. And so if you observe your breath there in your abdomen, you're developing a kind of new location for, you're developing a place where you can feel located. And over time, it will feel strong. You will feel power there, which is kind of exciting when it starts to develop. It's like in the middle of adversity. Like for me, it's like that. If I'm in an adverse situation, like cold or a storm, or someone being angry with me, it's like you can go there and will feel more resilient. Now, when I mean a place where you can locate yourself, like compare this to, if somebody asks you, where are you located in your body? Most people who are not practitioners will feel located in this head-shoulder triangle. They're like, I'm in here somewhere, Because attention is entangled with thought. It's like you feel like you're here. And what I'm talking about is that you start feeling like, if somebody asks you, where are you located in your body, you would say, like, here. It's a big shift. You would walk from here and kind of speak from here too. This is doing something. This is cultivating something in the body and facilitating a change. And this changing to locating yourself in the hara has all kinds of benefits, I think, but it adds to this attentional stability. I mention this quite often, but it's like there's in traditional Japanese culture, this was commonly practiced to locate yourself in the hara. And that's why ritual suicide in Japan is called harakiri, which means to cut the hara, to cut the abdomen, because the person is located here, so you kill yourself here. And because we're located in the head, the suicide is like shooting yourself in the head. So you're stabbing or shooting yourself where you feel you're located, So you can see that culturally, this is a real thing. Another thing, it's like, this is a side comment, which I'll say it, is, heart transplantation was a real problem in Japan because, and probably in other Asian countries too, because the Chinese and Japanese word for mind is really heart, mind. So the person is considered to be located in the heart too, So there's different, like in the Taoist philosophy, there's like 3 dantines: the lower, the middle, and the upper. And so these are all energetic centers where you can be located. So the heart is important because it's an integral part of personhood. So if you can transplant a heart, it means the heart is not dead. And if the heart is not dead, the person isn't dead. So to take a heart out of a body that is still alive is really murder. It's not ethical. You can't do it. So in the West, we have a definition of death that is it's related to the brain. When the brain is dead or doesn't show any function anymore, the person is pronounced dead. Therefore, we can transplant organs. I'm completely against organ transplantation. This is just my position for this, because these organs are clearly alive, otherwise you couldn't donate them. They wouldn't be useful to anyone if they were dead. So you're really interfering with the death process prematurely. It's like clearly the whole person isn't dead. Otherwise, you wouldn't use the organ. So I'm not interested in my own death process being interfered with like this. I've considered it totally violent. And also, I don't want anybody else's organ. So I have no interest. I think that heart and mind are not, mind and body are not separate. So you'd be importing with another, and there's a book, it's a long time I read this, but this is like a French philosopher, I forget his name, who had a heart transplantation, and then he wrote the book The Invader, because he was studying that he was a different person after the heart was implanted, and he had all these emotions that were foreign to him and stuff. Anyway, this is a sideshow. So do something, count the breath, and stabilize attention on a chosen target. I had this crazy practice for a while when I was doing the oryoki to stabilize attention on the oryoki practice. I was trying to come up with a name for each gesture. Untying the knot, unfolding the wrapping cloth. I don't know, forget now. It was kind of hard to find a name or a phrase for each gesture, because you don't name them usually, right? It's like you're just doing them. But it does stabilize attention on the thing. It's like when you're like, and then tucking the flap under. So by naming it all, I was present in each gesture. This is the same idea as counting the breath. I was just trying it out with something else. Or you can go on a walk and find your gaze wandering around, and then tree, bird, road. You're actually seeing much more. There are more attentional moments. Your speech, you will find that your speech is too slow to name all the attentional moments that are there. But you just do it kind of selectively. And I think you'll notice when you use the naming function of the mind that it really kind of, for that moment where you name something, stabilizes your attention on it. You take it in more deliberately, in a way. It's just a practice. I don't think this is something you want to do as a lifestyle. Naming everything. The other day I was in the car with my nearly 4-year-old son, and he said, "Daddy, does everything have a name?" I'm like, well, this is a profound question. If you give it one, yeah. But no, for sure, not everything has a name. All right, and it's at some point when you get this feeling of attention stabilized, then counting or naming can fall away, and then you do something that I call following. Just you're following the breath. It's a kind of natural development. At some point it gets too tedious to count your breath because your attention can just stay with this change that is happening and what you call breathing. You can just stay with it. And so you're noticing it. And just the way you can notice other things that are in your experiential sphere, and you don't have to name them, they're just that, like, you're fully aware of the sound of the bell. It's touching your body. You feel it, and you're with it. And the way it unfolds its sound as it gets, it's kind of like, it's almost like it's expanding and then it's shrinking in intensity. You can just follow it. There's no need to name anything. And at some point, I think you will notice that it's kind of restrictive to say, like, oh, I'm just going to pay attention to my breath. I'm just going to pay attention to sounds. I'm just going to pay attention to visuals. And then you're entering into, kind of naturally, into this do-nothing approach, because you're just present in your experiential sphere, and like, this happens, that happens, now this. Now I'm noticing my breath. Now I'm noticing a kind of pain. But be careful to, it's like, this isn't just being lazy. This is like really having a wide mind in which all this, what you would call your experience, is permitted to be just as it is. So do something and do nothing in the end become very complementary. You can use do something, the cultivation of attention, to sort of release your effort into a kind of effortless noticing and a kind of effortless mindfulness. Or if you start with the effortless mindfulness, you may find that you are drawn into a certain attentional focus, and you are staying with something. You're investigating, almost like, sometimes you can bring gentle questioning to it too. It's like, what is this contraction that I'm experiencing here in whatever part of the body? What am I not allowing? Contractions are usually ways of not allowing a flow. And by completely accepting the contraction, but questioning it a bit, it's like you can start to, this is a subtle doing something, the questioning. Anyway, I'm leaving you with that. It's like to find where this is kind of complementary, these approaches of doing something and doing nothing. Sometimes people ask me about that, and I do encourage you to, you can structure your zazen a little bit. You can use the first part of your zazen with the do something approach and kind of stabilize attention, counting, let it evolve into following, and then for the second part, you just leave that aside and just do nothing. Just experience both approaches. Or you start with do nothing, like, I would just, often just sit down and just open. I'm just open to whatever experience there is. But if I find that I'm not really attentionally present enough, stable, I'll do something. I'll go to my breath. I'm gonna, let me actually use the breath as a doorway to here. You understand? Just use something, Use your feeling your posture or your body sensations as a way of committing to this embodied presence. Okay?